What is up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of New Pod here on KNOTFEST.com. As always, I'm Josh Toomey, joined by the one and only Ro Coley. Ro, how are we doing today?
I am doing good. I am happy to be on dry land. that right now.
Yeah, I saw a lot happened on the Headbangers Boat. I saw a couple got married there. Did you see anything about the marriage that happened on the boat?
I did. I actually had a front row seat to it in more ways than one. But yes, me and my wife got married officially. We've been together for 11 years, and we got engaged like 9 years ago. But because of there we go. Look at the lovely couple. But because of parents and overbearing friends making the wedding process kind of miserable, we were like, this is kind of, neither of us care that much to just create this party that stresses us the hell out. Look at that. You have so many good pictures. The whole idea came about in a really weird way. Basically, one of my old street teamers, Tim Puder, which I hope I pronounce his name right, his last name right, because it's spelled Puder. He helped me out. He helped me and my wife with a situation. Meet a certain celebrity. That was very nice of him. And then I found out he worked for the cruise company that was doing Headbangers Boat. So he was able to sort of fast track us in, even though it was sold out. And when I found out that it was taking off on October 31st, that's the day that me and my wife met in person. And the reason we met was because I couldn't get into the Lamb of God show that day in Los Angeles. I couldn't get a ticket. So
how could the one and only Ro Coley not get into a Lamb of God show?
Can I just tell you, I've seen Lamb of God, I would honestly say throughout my life, probably about 80 times. So I will admit I didn't try crazy hard to get in. I was very I wanted something but also it was like at a time where I was single. I wanted something to do on Halloween, and going to a concert by myself on Halloween, just, I don't know, it just felt very bleh. It had a very deflated kind of feeling to it. So when I couldn't do it, I was like, hey, what are you up to? I contacted her. I met her on OkCupid, and yeah, after that we've literally been together ever since. So with the cruise taking off 11 years to the day that we met, I thought it was just a perfect kind of timing. And then I'd known Randy from Lamb of God for quite some time also. So I asked him if he would officiate. Great shot right there. That's the winner. That's my wife. So I asked Randy to officiate, and he was totally down with it. And he came out dressed as a fat Elvis, which was fucking perfect. Because if we just went to Vegas and got married by an Elvis, that would be cheesy. My wife thought about us getting married at the Kiss Chapel, Wedding Chapel, which I also, even though I'm a huge Kiss fan, I also thought was pretty friggin' cheesy. But it all worked out. I mean, it all came together. I wouldn't say it all worked out. It didn't come together, but it did not work out the way it was supposed to. And then I had Doc Coyle from Bad Wolves and God Forbid, and the Wedding Band, and all sorts of other projects. He was my best man, and his fiancée Jasmine was my wife's maid of honor. That's a great shot right there. I love that picture. So originally we were supposed to do it after Lacuna Coil's set on stage, but then they switched their set times, and then we were going to do it with God Forbid on their stage. But then the cruise company contacted me because they had told me no. They had told me that they won't accommodate us, which I said, okay, that's fine. I don't need accommodations. We didn't need a ballroom. We don't want, we don't need anything. At first I was asking if they could provide some sort of space, and they're like, no. So I said, okay, great. We'll make our own space. We'll do it with the bands on stage. And they weren't expecting me to do that. So they were like, they called me up and they're like, congratulations. And by the way, you're a tremendous pain in the ass to us. And I was like, that checks all the boxes to me. So they were like, hey, look, we weren't expecting somebody to kind of come up with a loophole, but you did. And congrats. And we're going to close that loophole right after this. So they gave us one of the lounges that bands played at, the Spinnaker Lounge. They gave us access to that. But I was like, look, this is short and sweet and dirty, 6:30. I just want people to start coming in. 7 p.m. we start the ceremony. By 7:30, we're out of there. There's no first dance. There's no, we need catering. There's no, everybody's going to be here for 12 hours. Nope. I want to go and see Mastodon. Like, right. I want to get this done so we can be out and done and gone. In hindsight, I do regret doing it at the time I did. I wish we had done it during Guar set, because then a lot more people that I wanted to be there could have shown up, like people from members from like Violence and a couple of dudes from God Forbid, and some of the techs and the crew that I've known for years that I wanted to be there were working multiple bands, so they couldn't really be there. But I mean, like people like Lacuna Coyle showed up, and Jesse Leach from Killswitch was there, and obviously Doc, and there was just people there that I hadn't seen in 20 years that I didn't even know on the boat. Like my buddy Andrew Sample, who's like the walking metal encyclopedia. Me and him worked together at Century Media a long time ago, and he's just a fucking great dude. One of my favorite people, definitely an inspiration for me, just because he's just metal through and through. And my friends from Roadrunner UK, from back in the day, Michelle Kerr and Kirsten Sprinks, who made it out on the boat as well, which was rad. Annie from Adrenaline PR, who works with Maria Ferrara. Mm-hmm. She was our wedding photographer, which was nice. Dope. My good friends Thomas and his son Dylan Castiglione. Dylan's in a great metal band called Tornadic. If you get a chance, make sure you check them out. They're really good. They've been playing since they were like 15 or 16, so they're really, really good. He won some huge guitar contest, I think, on Mega Boat back in the day, where Dave Mustaine gave him like one of his guitars and stuff. Uh-huh. It was pretty dope. He's a great guitar player. But they like filmed it, so it was just really awesome that the people that were there. And Six Man, the cruise company that puts on like the Kiss Cruise and all these kinds of event based cruises. They were all super cool. So super shout out to Six Man. They are fucking super professional and just really, really nice. So, but yeah, that's kind of what happened, man. And Randy was there dressed as the Fat Elvis, and him and his girl were there. They were both dressed as Fat Elvis. But it was a really good time. My one of my other old street teamers, Sarah Peterson, was there, which made me super happy. Just that, that I had somebody from the road crew that was there. So there was just a lot of awesome people that were there to help us celebrate it and to be a part of it. And I was seriously, like it was great. And when it worked out, it finally worked out, and it was rad. And then we gave everyone these koozies. I got one for you too, Josh.
Oh, wow.
It's our wedding koozie. See?
Nice.
So real quick when it comes to you must know this because you're married, but when it comes to planning a wedding, not the easiest thing in the world. A lot of things can go wrong, and so we made these koozies, and they were supposed to be delivered like last Monday in Florida, and we even like 2-dayed them and all that sort of stuff, and they didn't show up on Monday, and then we had to leave on Tuesday. And so we were waiting to find out where these damn things were, and they were supposed to arrive by 11 a.m. They didn't, and so I'm out of my mind. I'm super pissed off. And I gotta go and buy champagne to bring on the boat, and so I'm just walking around, just angry. And all of a sudden, the UPS driver just drives right by me, and I literally just took off like a hauled ass just to catch him. And it ends up that I was like, well, Miami Beach isn't a huge area, so this guy, if he's the UPS guy here, that means this is his whole territory.
Right. So,
I ran after him, and I was like, if you deliver to this hotel, you have to have my package. And he was like, let me see your ID, and show him the ID. And he like, it wasn't even like, look at, he was like, here you go. I was like, what? I was like, that's it. He's like, you called me. I wouldn't have gotten to that location until 6 p.m. tonight. So needless to say,
nice.
Yeah, so it was just this really weird twist of fate that I got all the bottles of champagne. Like it was just all of it like weirdly just worked all at once. And then, literally 6.5 hours later, like we were getting married. So it was great, man. It was I really appreciate Randy and everybody who came out. It worked out. It's kind of like you ever like fall in a certain way where then you end up just kind of like standing up and you're like, okay, I don't know what just happened. That's really what it was like. Yeah. It was like I just tripped over my feet 14 times and then somehow I landed in a perfect standing position. And I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, great. So But yeah, man, it was this boat was a trip. I mean, I actually, let me ask you, do you have questions about like the boat, about the experience? Because like, if you have something specific, otherwise I'll tell you the whole story.
No, I mean, yeah, we're definitely getting there. Back to the OkCupid thing, man. I mean, what was it about her profile that made you were you swiping right on everybody, or was it like she jumped out at you?
No, you know what? She contacted me because I guess they have an algorithm where it's like, oh, you're a 90% match or whatever.
Okay.
And it was funny because because I got sick of writing like these long descriptions of myself.
Mm-hmm.
I like this and I like this, and then finally I just was like, you know what? Screw this. If you like any of this stuff, don't bother contacting me. And it was like, if you're overly religious, if you like reality TV, like it was just this whole list of like 12 things.
Which is exactly what like sites tell you not to do.
Right. And I was so sick of it. I was so over like finding all this information out after the fact about these girls that I was dating. And I'm like, oh God, this is so stupid. And then I just wrote a list. I was like, if you're into any of this stuff, drop me a line. And that was it. And she contacted me and she was like, hey, I'm like 0 for 7 and 12 for 12 or whatever it was. And I'm like, I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. I was like, oh, my list. I totally forgot about that. All right, cool. My list. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then I was looking at her pictures. And one of the things was if she swore in a bunch of her picture descriptions where she was like, fuck this guy. And I was like, okay, I like that. That's kind of cool. And then she had just like some really cool pictures where it just showed, A, she was just very pretty, and B, it just showed that she wasn't afraid to sort of, you know, she wasn't like dainty, you know, she kind of had like, she had this one where she was like sort of dressed like a zombie bride, but she had these like demon claws and she's like, and I was like, all right. So she's like, you know, cause like when sometimes you tell somebody like, oh, make a scary face. And they're like, right. Wow, really? That's it, huh? That's all you got for me. And so she's just very emotive and she's very like, she's just very, there was a certain energy about her in her photos that I was like, okay, she looks like she's just this very nice, you know, good daughter, if you will. But then it's like, you look at some of these other pictures and she's just like, and I'm like, oh, okay, good. That's what I like, you know? So I was like, all right, cool. So, you know, we talked a little bit online, but when I called her on Halloween and said, hey, do you want some company? She was like, yeah, sure. What the hell? So I'm just going to be scaring kids and giving out candy. Like, sure, why not? It's like, we got a ton of strangers coming by. Might as well come by too. What the hell? So
I was going to say, yeah, I was like a couple of losers on Halloween with nobody else to hang out with.
That was kind of it, you know? That was kind of it. And it was funny too. When I went to her place, like she had all this candy and everything. I think like 3 kids came by. I was like, so we just ended up hanging out and talking like for just awesome. Hours. Yeah. And the next day we both took down our profiles. We were just like, yeah, no, this is it. This is what we're in for. You know, so it was cool, man. I wrote out Randy's speech, and I wrote out like I wrote out my vows, and she wrote out her vows, and we just read them to each other and tried to be a little bit funny here and there. You know, nice. Hopefully it came off right. You know, they can't all be singers. But yeah, no, so my buddy Dylan, Thomas's son, he was actually cool. He does like video. He's taking like a video editing class in high school. And so he was like, cool, my teacher said this could be my project. I was like, fuck, that works for me. so he's putting it together. He's editing it. And I mean, he had us all mic'd and everything. So, you know, I'm excited to see how the video comes out, you know, cause he's a creative kid and just, I mean, he was super stoked to just be there to do it. And it was great too. Cause he was like, all right, I'm going to mic you up. And like, he was so pro about it. It literally made me feel like we were on a TV show where, you know, you just had somebody who was like, okay, like, all right, just say check. Okay. Check. Oh, good. Levels are perfect. Like, it was like, he was so good about it.
Nice.
So yeah, so that's kind of, yeah, the OkCupid thing was always weird because people were like, oh, screw OkCupid. And I'm like, you know,
worked for me.
You know, the list thing definitely worked because she was like, good. I knew what you were into and what you absolutely weren't into. I was like, good. Perfect. You know?
So like if you guys go back to the Taproot episode with Steven Richards, obviously Ro was doing that from his car because Ro had to go get his suit jacket and he was out running errands, then had to basically pull over to Starbucks to interview Steven Richards of Taproot. I mean, you guys looked awesome. I mean, the jacket came out very cool. I thoroughly enjoyed the jacket.
I'll tell you something, man. The jacket was an idea. So I had a buddy. His name was Arlen. He was an artist, super prolific artist. Known this dude forever and ever. And he unfortunately died in a very, very tragic way. And so I went to his art gallery in Tustin, California, because they were selling off a lot of his artwork to pay for funeral expenses. And he had a suit jacket that he had screen printed some of his artwork on. And he put like these really cool, almost like, what the hell are they called? Like just these like studs on the shoulder, almost like it was like military. It almost looked a little military. And I just remember being like, holy crap, like that is the coolest suit jacket I've ever seen. And so I wore it everywhere to every function. And people were like, oh my God, it's a great jacket. And it's just gotten to the point where I'm like, okay, now it's just become the one jacket I seem to wear everywhere. So I don't really want that either.
Yeah.
It's like that Simpsons episode where like Marge finds the Chanel dress and then she just keeps cutting it up to try to make it look like a different thing each time, keep impressing people. It's kind of like that. So I have access to a certain printing method where we can take images and just put a full color, super, detailed image on a shirt or any kind of apparel. And, it's a little expensive because if you want to just do like whatever, 10 shirts or something like that, it's, you're paying for it, but it's not like going to the mall and paying like $50 each for a shirt.
Yeah.
And so my friend Anthony Clarkson, who any of you out there look up Anthony Clarkson art, you guys are going to be blown away. He does incredible paintings, but he's also done album artwork for Fear Factory, Devin Townsend. He did Shovel-Headed Kill Machine by Exodus. He's done, a million different Century Media like catalogs and like Metal for the Masses, those CD compilations. He did the album artwork for all of that stuff, and he is just an amazing artist. I have so many of his original paintings up in our place here, and he's one of my best friends in the world. And so I had him send me over as much of his high resolution images as I could, and so we put one of his art pieces on the back, which I believe is called Dead End Kings, and then we had I think it's called the Tree of Life or something like that, and we put it's the same design but just kind of mirrored on both sides of the front of the jacket. So it's a new merch item that I want to really I'm hoping kind of takes off, where people can actually, instead of just wearing just a boring suit jacket, there you go, where instead of just wearing like a boring suit jacket, that's one of his. I was going to do Deepest Night. That's going to, if you go up a little bit, that one there, that's going to be on my next jacket. Because like the colors just come out so incredibly beautiful. And it looked really, really good. My team is just so good at what they do. But yeah, we can take any of the stuff and just kind of put it on like a one-off thing. So I want to just create these like one-off suit jackets that are basically artwork in and of themselves, like almost wearable artwork, more so than just making another t-shirt, a screen printed t-shirt.
Yeah.
One of his older designs. A lot of his stuff is, just really crazy, amazing stuff.
It looks great. Yeah.
That was another one that Vic wanted me to use that one. And that is that's one I really love, is that blue one. But I love the Dead End Kings one. I just thought it was a really cool playing card looking design. Vic was like, great, Dead End Kings. Thanks a lot. And I'm like, that's not it. You know that.
That's not what I meant.
That's not what I meant. But his artwork is it's stunning, and it's some of my favorite stuff ever. And I've always wanted to have his artwork on some part of. I'm actually going to get one of his art pieces tattooed on me sometime soon. But yeah, it's his.
Why didn't you get that one? The Loneliest Lovebird.
Because I'm not anymore. Well, it was funny too, because we were trying to come up with different songs for my wife to come down to, and she loves Wham. But I was like, I'm not going to do like Careless Whisper, or like, I'm Your Man or something like that. None of those really work. So we did I Would Die For You by Prince, which was kind of nice. That worked out well.
Nice.
But yeah, man, that's so the jacket just was so, it was such an integral part of what I really wanted to do, because I wanted it to be, I didn't want to just show up in a black suit or a tuxedo or something like that. It's just kind of lame to me. So I was wearing the same tie that I wore. So when I went to visit her on Halloween that year, I had no costume. So I found a monster mask in my closet. I put on a suit. So I was just a very well-dressed monster. That was my that was my costume. It was just fucking lame as fuck. But I was wearing this really cool tie that I bought at a comic convention, and she wanted me to wear that tie that night as well. So I was like, all right, cool.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like, from start to finish, I mean, this whole thing, every little piece, like you said, kind of came together, and a lot of like little mementos here and there, like the tie and all that stuff, man. Everything kind of had its purpose and had its place.
Yeah, and I mean, and again, like, Randy understood also just that, this whole thing was weirdly indirectly caused by him and his band in a really weird way, so it was all about sort of the symbolism of it all, and trying to have as many representations or representatives in a way of all the people that we care about. So while Anthony Clarkson, who I wish could have been on that boat, because I think he would have had a fucking blast, couldn't be there. He was there on my jacket. Like I couldn't have all my street teamers that I love and care about around the country there. But Sarah Peterson was there. So she represented all of them, so it was that kind of thing where everybody sort of represented just different eras of our lives and all that. So it was really, it worked out. There's definitely things I wish I could have done differently, but in the end, it worked out as best as it could. And I think everybody still had a great time,
Yeah. When you hit up Randy, was he on board right away, or was he kind of like, you kind of had to?
No, he was on board right away. And then when Pantera played out here, when it was Pantera and Lamb of God, I got to meet up with him. And at first he was like trying to figure out all the legalities of it. I'm like, no, dude, we'll take care of all the paperwork in LA. Like you're just there to marry us, man. He's like, oh, okay, cool. So once he realized that he wasn't like breaking laws or anything like that, he wanted to make sure he wasn't breaking maritime law and make sure the captain of the boat was there. And I was like, no, we're not dealing with any of that. So once he was like, oh, okay, he was like, all right, great. And then he was, I basically just kind of wrote a script as if I was him, as if he was writing it. And, he kind of tweaked it a little bit here and there. And in the end, it was fun. It was funny. It just was, it was just good, and it was great. Once it was over and I could, sort of put my cargo shorts back on and everything. And you're just kind of like, oh my God, we made it. Okay, good. Let's go watch Municipal Waste. Actually, Municipal Waste was the first band that played actually that day. So we did get to watch them, which was cool.
So as you write his speech as Randy from Lamb of God, I mean, are you like, and as the palaces burn in your hearts, and we will all come together in the ashes of the wake.
A buddy of mine was like, oh my God, how can you not have, now you have something to die for in the speech. And I thought about it and I tried to work it in there. And then I was just like, I feel like if somebody did that to me, like me incorporating my name in everything, just don't forget to remember that, I was like, like that kind of thing where I was like, I feel like he'd probably think that was kind of dumb, like just sitting here, like just making like, wordplay out of his album titles and song lyrics, with any luck, you won't become a redneck and become, as you watch the palaces burn, drinking Black Label, like that, it's like,
I will say that if you would have incorporated the now you have something to die for, I think that would probably be acceptable.
Yeah. But that also implies that I didn't have something to die for previously. So, that's the way I look at it too. But I just like the fact that I was like, this isn't like one of those weddings that you go to and you're like, this is not going to last, like, I'm like, we've done pretty good for 11 years. I think we got this, but
and Doc is the best man. Was it just like, he was the closest friend on the boat? And you're like, hey, you, like,
no. We hang out with Doc and his girl all the time out here. And they are two of our dearest friends. And I mean, I've known him since, I knew him very briefly before I started working at Century Media, just because we're both from Jersey and all that, and part of that kind of Jersey metalcore scene back in the day. But after I worked at CM and everything like that, we've always been pretty tight. So having him there as my best man, the only thing I was scary was that he was running late because God forbid had just gotten off a stage. So he had to make sure. So we were all just like, where is Doc? Where is Doc? Where's Doc? Come on, Doc. And then finally when he showed up and once he was there and my wife was there and everything, I was like, thank God. Because at that point you start to worry about like wardrobe malfunctions, like all the stuff you just can't control.
All right. So getting to the boat was good. Everything smooth, flights, everything, getting to Miami.
Yeah, everything was pretty kosher. We got to Miami a few days early just so that we could have the weekend and just kind of hang out, which was nice. So just a couple of days to ourselves, and it was just really pleasant. And when it comes to Miami Beach, getting a hotel, like if you're spending a shit ton of money, you can obviously get a very nice hotel out there. But when you're on a budget like I am, it's a little hit or miss. So when I was out there for 70,000 tons in February, the hotel I had was fucking horrible.
Okay.
Fucking air conditioning wasn't working. Like in Miami, the air conditioning not working should never be a thing because it's so damn hot out there. But this place was super nice, and it's called La Flora by somebody, Lux something. But I'll tell you something, man. It's like, you go to a hotel and it's like you see that front desk person and they're, sometimes they're bubbly, sometimes they're whatever. Dude, the girl who worked there was like the best part of this whole thing. Like she was just the nicest person you've ever seen. So helpful, like calling you in your room, just being like, just making sure you guys got in there and everything's right. And you're like, who is this woman? And can I adopt you? Can you adopt me? Like, man, this is great. So, I mean, nice. all the way till we literally got that box of koozies at the end. I mean, she was just always just super helpful and just really nice. I mean, we were just like, man, she was like, please leave a review. I'm like, dude, I've left like 8 reviews on like 5, on like so many different sites for this girl. So
they're so positive that they think it's a plant.
Right. But she was just wonderful. But like, yeah, so that was kind of it. Everything else was, I mean, for all intents and purposes, pretty smooth, except we did have some unfortunate stuff that happened, so we can get into that in a minute.
Yeah, we'll touch on that a little bit. But so getting on the boat, everything was good. And you said, was there any pre-party stuff? Was there a concert in Miami?
There was Jesse Leach did a DJ set.
Okay.
Which we didn't, but which I would stupidly just slept on kind of thing. I just did, and I was like, well, we're going to see him DJ on the boat, which we didn't end up seeing him DJ on the boat either, which sucked. But I mean, yeah, that was pretty much it. Though, like usually for 70,000 tons, there's this pre-party and then there's a party on the beach and there's like this kind of whole thing. But it seemed like a lot of people either staying kind of closer to the docks as opposed to Miami Beach, that kind of thing. So no real pre-party, but this was also the first year of this boat. I'm sure there was a little well, how's this going to go? Da, 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 da. So I think they kept it very much on the conservative side when it came to that sort of thing, planning any kind of thing like that. But it was weird though. It was Halloween weekend in Miami Beach, in South Beach. Now to me, we got there on a Friday, so we're walking around and we're like, there's nobody out. And then Saturday happened and we're like, there's still nobody out. So it's like Friday, Saturday, Sunday of Halloween weekend, like hardly anybody was in South Beach. It was really bizarre. It was like, we were like, does anybody know it's Halloween? Do you guys not know this? But it was just really weird.
Yeah.
That there was nothing there. So, but yeah, so everything leading up to the boat, all that, barring the koozie snafu and all that, was really easy, super simple. Got to our cabin, everything was fabulous, and it was cool too because every day they left a little Headbangers Boat swag in your room. Let's see, one day it was we got a little patch set, which all that stuff is upstairs. So like I had a Headbangers Boat patch, and then because it was they did all of Ashes of the Wake, but they were promoting omens and all that kind of stuff too. So they gave out just little patches, so like little Lamb of God icons and stuff like that. They gave out like a bandana at one point. We got something like a lanyard and just swag. Which was cool. So yeah, I mean that part of it was kind of cool. Our room was nice and decently sized, and we had a balcony, which was also nice.
Nice.
We could just chill out, and this is the first cruise I didn't have to share a room with somebody, which was share a room with like 5 other people, So it was nice where it was just me and her, doing our thing. So just gave us our own spot and our own little place to retreat to when you needed to retreat. But yeah, I mean, look at that. That lineup is so
it's
awesome.
A pretty stacked lineup.
This is an old one too, because there's a bunch of bands that are missing on here.
Yeah, it says plus more to be announced.
Oh yeah,
this grab whatever.
Dude, there was an area of the boat called the atrium, which was one of the stages. So it was just like literally like the atrium. Like it was just this like tiny little area. Any of the bands that played on there were just like incredible. There you go. That's a much better one. So I mean, I saw like Hatebreed, Shadow. We saw Hatebreed, saw Municipal Waste there, Gate Creeper, like in this like just this tiny little area.
Yeah.
Just like the most insane pits, but it was so good.
How many people would you say were on the boat?
That is a really good question. I want to say like 1,500 or 2,000, but I don't know if that's accurate.
And would you say
I'd like to find out actually?
Was there also like other passengers like in another section of the boat? Like was this like a split thing or was
all us? It's all metalheads just doing metalhead stuff. But it's funny though, because like on these boats, have you ever been on a cruise?
No.
Okay. So on these boats, they have like, it's basically like a little, it's just like a Vegas hotel on the sea, basically. So when you go to a Vegas hotel, they have their shops, they have their venues, they have like kind of all these things, but it's like the shops they have on these boats are so like, they're not catered to the people who are on the boat. So it's like, you have like, oh, you can buy like
a Chanel purse.
Yeah, totally. Like, it's 50% off. So that means it's only $9,000, that kind of thing where you're like, okay. I mean, and there were some people who were buying stuff, but like, it's just, it's stuff like that where I just sit there and I'm like, really? Like when I was on 70,000 tons, it was the same thing where they were like, they're like, come here. Let me show you this bracelet. You got to get your girlfriend. Only $4,500. I'm like, do you see what I look like? Do I look like I'm just like, oh, I found this $4,500 in the my couch cushions earlier today. Like
what cargo pocket of my camo shorts do you think I'm carrying $4,500?
Exactly, right? That's exactly. Oh, must have left that money at home. Like. So it's like I kind of wish that they would have at least one of the stores would be catered towards metalheads.
Maybe or like a pop-up shop kind of deal, like
something kind of like that. It's like I mean, and it's like they had the merch area, which I mean, you had to find the right sweet spot to get in that merch line because otherwise the merch line was like 3 hours long every day. Yeah. So it's like I happened to, when we were watching Guar at one point, I was like, oh, I'm just gonna use the restroom. I was like 8 people online. I was like. I'm not. I call my wife. I'm like, get over here as fast as you can. This is like a once in a lifetime opportunity. But other than that, there wasn't really anything, and that's why I was like, another thing in the merch area. So you have obviously the band shirts and all that sort of stuff, and they had vinyl. Somebody who brought vinyl. I don't know if they were tied into a record store or whatever. And so you're looking through the vinyl, and there's okay, cool. The Shadows Fall, there's God forbid some Municipal Waste, and then it's like Dolly Parton and Crosby, Stills and Nash, and you're like. When did this sort of and then it just became like the Carpenters and I'm like okay but they were like beat up old used records and I was like who's like oh man I got that Carly Simon record I've been looking for forever like it was just really it was that kind of thing where there are certain things where you're just like
like a yard sale vinyl.
Did anyone think this out? Really? Here's another funny thing. So I went to a fine art auction there because I collect art. So we go there and I'm like waiting to see like, okay, cool. Hopefully it'll be this kind of art that's really good. They had, do you know who Michael Goddard is? Have you heard of him? So you've probably seen his artwork. I think personally it's dumb as hell. It's usually these like little anthropomorphic like olives and strawberries like jumping into martini glasses and stuff like that. They just have like arms and legs. They call him the rock and roll painter, which whatever. I don't know. That just sounds douchey in and of itself. Yeah, it's a Godard. And it's like, and so they're like selling some of his like original paintings, and they're like, this retails for $35,000. So what do we say we start the bidding at the low price of $17,000? And we're all like looking at each other like, yeah, who's first to bid on this one? I'm like, dude, the guy I'm sitting next to has a Slaughter to Prevail mask on and no shirt. I'm like know your fucking audience, please. So I have a couple of pitches that I want to send to the cruise company. for some ideas that I have on like the art auction and a couple other activities that I was like, I felt were kind of lacking a little bit, you know, just as far as like being something for the people there, you know, other than the merch aspect. It's like, you know, when it came to like retail stuff, there wasn't really anything for anybody. Randy had a, yeah, that's his stuff.
A hair dryer on a grape.
It's just ridiculous. It's just, I mean, I guess some of it is kind of quirky and whatnot, but it's like, you know, I don't know. It's just dumb in my opinion.
If you want a print of this, it's only $1,200.
Yeah, totally. Right. It's like, and it's like, this dude's all over. He's got stuff all over Vegas. Yeah. See, there's like your anthropomorphic olives with the glass, and it's a lot of that kind of stuff, like strawberries and olives with arms and legs. Very Vegas-y based kind of vibe.
This wasn't the painter that was out with Kiss, right?
Oh, I don't know. God, possibly. Who knows? I don't know. I mean, I guess if that's your thing, then I think fabulous. I can't argue that. But like, for those of us that are on the boat, we were just kind of like, wow, this is not hitting any of us on any kind of emotional level whatsoever. And when you're starting the bidding at 17.5, I'm like, you really, come on, people. Like, yeah. So, but like Randy had a photo exhibit there.
Oh, he did a Dishwalla album cover.
Well, rah. No olives with arms and legs. What a travesty! What a travesty!
But like, in this sweet tattoo.
Unbelievable. No. But yeah, they showed him like they did like a little weird little EPK about him, and he's like driving away in this like metallic red, crazy metallic red like Lamborghini. Like he's a rock and roll painter. Whatever. But like Randy's photos that he had there were super cool. He had these great photos of like Corey Taylor and Kerry King and stuff, you know, where Randy took these pictures when he was in the photo pit. Like those prints were going for like $700 unframed and $800 framed or something like that. And I was like, and I don't know who bought any of his stuff or if any of his stuff did sell, but it was like all edition of 10 and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And it was all really cool stuff. But I was like, if they auctioned those off, that at least would have been something that, you know, you could see people bidding against each other for and really being like, I really love that Slayer print. Like, I want that photo. You know, it's like, you know, 200. Okay, well, 250 or 300 and 350. You know, like, I'm sure that he probably could have gotten a lot more than 800 if it was just kind of back and forth bidding. But yeah, so that stuff was just kind of for sale. But like, yeah, the art auction itself was just fucking dumb.
Did you see any of the live podcast, anything with Josta or Ricky?
We went to Ricky Rackman's live. His what is it? 1 Foot in the Galley.
1 Foot in the Gutter.
Well, yeah, but it was called 1 Foot in the Galley for the show.
Oh, okay.
So, which was cool, man. He was going through his whole history of you know, and going through Headbangers Ball and just all of it. It was really.
Did they have the video component and things like that? Yeah. I saw that show here. Yeah, it's fun. It's long. It's like a couple hours long. Like unless he condensed it, but he
had to. He was constantly running out of time. he was like, okay, I got to get through this. You know, and he does say hello, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
Nice. Yeah, I was like, hey. I was like, my buddy Josh Toomey knows you. And he's like, yeah, I remember him. So, yeah, and I did a little mini interview with him that I sent over to you. So hopefully that'll be cool. What else? So the bands are cool. I mean, God forbid, Shadows Fall. Or, 2001, 2023. Seriously, you can't really tell a difference, man. They were both like, they were just on fire. They were tight as hell. They all sounded great. I mean, it was really, for me, like seeing Shadows Fall and God Forbid again, like that was literally 2001, 2002 all over for me, you know, which was super amazing. They played on the pool deck and it was like 900 mile per hour winds, which was crazy. It was like shit was just flying everywhere. They were really good. Municipal Waste is definitely like one of my new favorite bands ever. Those guys are hilarious. If you get a chance to see them, especially if they're playing a nice tiny little club, please go and see them. They're so much goddamn fun. It's stupid. Gate Creepers was incredible. I think the first time I saw them was at that KNOTFEST in Des Moines.
Yeah.
That was the first time I saw them. I thought they were really good. And man, they closed out the entire event on Friday night. And that shit, like people were going berserk. I mean, but their set was so good. Malevolence was really cool. Actually, Jesse Leach was in the pit the entire time during Malevolence, so he was
nice.
when I saw him come upstairs, I was like, why is he all sweating and wet? And then I see him down there. I was like, holy shit. And like the entire time he wasn't in the pit, he was just fucking screaming the lyrics, like just as he was walking. Like I was like, wow, man, this dude fucking loves this band, which was really cool. Fit for an Autopsy was incredible. They were another band that was just like, I mean,
yeah, they're great.
Just really, really solid. Guar, I don't know, man. I love Guar. I love odorous Guar. But last few times I've seen Guar, I've been I feel like they're missing something. Something is missing. And now they just the guitar player just left. So I don't know. I think they need a new kind of spark. And I don't know what that spark is, but you know, I was watching because so what they have in the rooms, in all the rooms, is you know, they have a TV in there, and then they had Lamb of God television, and so it had a handful of movies on it, like Dungeons and Dragons and Wayne's World, but then it had like the making of Omens, which was really, and it also had This Is Guar, the Guar documentary, and the Guar documentary, it's really a bummer. Once Dave Brockie died, like you could tell everybody was just like, it really knocked the wind out of their sails, you know. And then when they started up again with Blothar and all that, it's like it was good, but I feel like it's missing something, you know. And I think that Dave Brock, as I was watching the video footage, I think Dave Brockie just brought a lot more sort of activity to the stage. You know, like he could like bang his head when he needed to. He could, you know, move around the stage a little bit more, like all of these kinds of things. And maybe that helped give it a little bit more movement. But like the Blothar character is just kind of lumbers around, you know. It's like he's not like kind of getting into the song or anything like that. So I feel like there's something that's missing. So when I saw him at Cold Chamber, and Mudvayne, I was kind of like, something's missing. And then we saw them not too long before that, and I felt exactly the same way. And then watching their sets this time around, I'm like, they need to change something. Something needs to change to give their stage set a little more, or their stage persona a little bit more oomph, you know, or just a little bit more movement. That's not just like, you know, weird dummy coming out, chop the head off, sprays out. It's like it needs something else. I hope they kind of take a look at that and kind of go, okay, we need something different. Because I felt like their performance was the one that I felt kind of fell flat. And it's like they didn't play anything off of like America Must Be Destroyed, which is where all the songs from Phallus in Wonderland, the whole video is from. Like that's where a lot of people know of them. So it's like to not play the stuff that people sort of know from these albums. It was just kind of one of those things where I was like, man, it just felt like kind of sucked that out of you a little, or out of me at least. But everybody else, I mean, Hatebreed was incredible. Lacuna Coil is always wonderful. I mean, I love those guys and girl. Mastodon, I only got to see Mastodon's final set at the end of the cruise, and it was that band, no matter what venue they can play, they fill every molecule of air with sound. Like it is when you watch them, it's like it's not that it's deafening or thundering or something like that. It's just like it's just so depth heavy, you know, in a weird way. I that's like the only way to put it. It's like every molecule is like audio, like when you're there, and it was really amazing. And well, this kind of goes into the unfortunate part of the boat, but the drummer, he came out and did a speech that was just absolutely incredible about what had happened. So I'm going to get into what had happened. So on Thursday night, everything was so basically they had to switch a bunch of the schedules around because we were pulling into the Bahamas, and they were like, hey, the day we were going to pull into the Bahamas, it's supposed to rain. So we're going to come in a day early, and sort of we have to switch everything around. So a lot of the scheduling got switched around. When we were going there, because a storm was on its way, the waters were pretty choppy, which was no good for somebody like me who gets very seasick. I had like the patches behind my ears. I was like downing Dramamine like it was, you know, Tic Tacs. So for me, I was not having a great time, which was one of the reasons why I didn't do any interviews, because it's really hard for me to be like, so tell me about, never mind. I got to go lay down. So anyway, so the water was kind of choppy anyway. So we go to the Bahamas a day early, go on the beach. Actually, it was kind of neat. Me and my wife, we actually got selected to help Randy clean up the beach for an hour. We were part of that little crew, which was kind of neat. So we cleaned up just a chunk of the beach, which was nice. Just picking up garbage and stuff. I think Byron from God Forbid was there. A couple other people. So the whole Bahamas day was nice. But then we were leaving, and on Thursday night, many of us were drunk, as we were, and it was about 3 o'clock in the morning, I think it was. And all of a sudden, on the loudspeaker, it says, "What's it called? Code Oscar. Code Oscar." And we were all like, what the fuck does Code Oscar mean? So we looked it up and we're like, oh shit, man overboard. We were like, holy crap. So somebody went overboard, and you could hear staff running around, all this sort of stuff, and nobody really knew what was going on. And there's plenty of rumors that are still out there. I personally did not know the guy. I've seen pictures of him, but I don't recall like being like, oh, there's that guy who was dressed up like blah, blah, whatever.
Yeah.
So I didn't know the guy. I don't really know a lot of the details of what happened, but I could just kind of surmise, like kind of just put my own little theories in there. So just so you know, this is just a theory. But from what we heard was that there was some kind of altercation with him and, I don't know, his girlfriend, the girl he was with, his wife. Again, not sure. We heard that it had gotten physical. Security had gotten involved. They were going to take him to the brig, which is basically the jail inside of a cruise ship.
Yeah.
And he took off running. This is where a lot of the theories also come into play, because we were like, oh my God, was he so pissed off or bummed out or whatever that he would just jump over? And we think that he probably, just trying to get away from security, jumped over the side, think he was going to land on a lower deck, and instead just went right into the water. Because of A, he was probably intoxicated. B, the shock of the fall, of just falling in. C, panic. D, how choppy the waves were, etc. I'm sure he probably didn't last very long. So, but what happened was we had to end up making a huge search loop with the Coast Guard and everything like that. So we had to. So normally, when a boat is coming into the port that you guys are gonna kind of leave the ship off, they'll kind of coast, because Bahamas to Miami is really close, so you could just kind of coast a little bit, and then the next morning you kind of go at full speed and you get back to the coast, or you get back to the port rather. And but because of the fact that we had to basically go around back through choppy waters again to try to find him, basically kept us all on the boat longer. And so when a lot of us left the boat, we got what was called land sickness, where we can't quite get our equilibrium on dry land. And for me, it was really, really bad. It was really bad. Even once we got home, I was in my living room and I'm like, I could feel the living room floor doing this. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is horrible.
Yeah.
But that was kind of it. It was, and it definitely cast a pretty, and then like around like 11 a.m., I think it was, they said that they had to give up the search because it had been 8 hours, 9 hours, whatever it was. And so they had to give up the search. So that last day of the ship, where bands were playing and everything, same thing, schedules got all switched around and stuff. And, a lot of bands were like, should we even play, just out of respect? Jamie from Hatebreed said some really good stuff. And so did Braun, where it was basically like, this guy was here for the same reasons we all were, which was to see a bunch of awesome metal bands and be a part of this awesome experience. So because we don't know what happened and all that kind of stuff, it's like we kind of just have to look at him like he's a fallen brother. He was one of us and died when he should have just been having a good time.
Yeah.
So but it became a lot about like the music bringing everyone together, the music kind of healing. And a lot of people were like, we feel like if he was here, he'd probably want everybody to still play and still, everyone to still have a good time. So it was really, that was kind of it. But you could definitely feel the change in, obviously, the attitude on the ship, because there were some people who probably did know him, and obviously they were pretty upset. But yeah, I beyond that, I don't know. I've seen some pictures of this guy, et cetera, but I mean, that's kind of it.
Yeah.
So like once that happened, we all still had a good time. There was still a good time to be had, but you could definitely tell that it wasn't as free feeling.
Festive.
Yeah, thank you. It wasn't as festive as it was those previous nights when we were all just having a grand old time, because we were just hanging out in the casino till like 4 a.m. It was just, nonstop food at the 24-hour fucking buffet thing, so it's like you could always just kind of do whatever, and it was fun. But yeah, when that happened, it definitely, like, people were kind of like, I don't know, you kind of walk around like, how do I have fun after something like that happened?
Yeah, it was crazy. The just being on, on land or whatever, and seeing man overboard on the Headbangers Boat cruise, and I'm like, better not be Roe. Right. So I started reading all the stuff, and finally I never saw a name, but I finally saw someone, like, it was like 41-year-old passenger, and I'm like, all right, not Roe. Yeah. But but that was wild, man.
It's funny because I'm on a bunch of the Headbangers Boat forums on Facebook, and whatnot, and a lot of people are like, nobody at Six Man's contacted me. I'm like, you guys need to relax. I'm like, A, I think the people who work the ship deserve a little bit of a vacation, B, they still have to deal with this guy's death internally.
Yeah.
At their company, so I'm sure this is still probably an active investigation. I'm sure it's still being, looked at, and really, obviously they have to think about, like, how do we prevent this from happening again, and all these kinds of things. You guys got to chill with the.
The wild thing about that is like what was it? The Monsters of Rock cruise, the one year that the Dio's bass player or whatever passed away on the boat, and they had to keep him on the boat, like, so there was basically a dead body on the boat with everybody the entire trip. I mean, there's not like you can do anything with that,
right? I mean,
you just kind of have to
sometimes they can
ride it out.
Sometimes they can airlift them, that kind of thing. I mean, I was that on 70,000? Something. I think it was 70,000, where they had to. Somebody had a medical emergency, so they had to, like. I can't remember if they airlifted them or just kind of put them on, like, sort of like a, I don't want to say a tugboat, but like, they just put them on like a kind of a smaller Coast Guard kind of vessel, get them back to Miami to get them to a hospital, But yeah, it's like somebody dies on the boat. I guess you can airlift them out, but man, yeah, that's kind of a weird.
Yeah, Jimmy Bain. I'm trying to on the Def Leppard cruise.
Oof, that's a bit tough. Yeah, but that's why with this one, it was like, just immediately it's like rumors start to swirl, like, oh my God, was this guy depressed? Was he suicidal? Was he, was he drunk? Was he trying
was it Bick wanting to throw Roe off the boat? She's got the keys to the War Machine.
She's got the keys to the War Machine debt. That's what she's got. No, it was, but that was kind of it. It was just nobody knew. Everybody. It's almost like when they put out a police APB on something and they just get like 18 million leads where people are like, I think I saw that serial killer at Kmart, it's like, okay, thank you. Suddenly everybody's got an experience with this guy.
I've always thought too, and this is totally off the wall, but like if you show me a photo of somebody, like, we're looking for this person. Right. And like that person, like, just shaves. I'd be like, I've never seen that person. Like, they could be standing next to me. I'd be like, have no idea. Never seen him before in my life.
That's every once in a while that'll happen to me, where somebody would be like, bro, and I'm like, I don't know who you are. And they're like, how do you not know it's me? I'm like, oh, you mean last time when you had dreads and a full mustache and a beard? Like, how am I supposed to know it's you with a shaved head now? Yeah. Jesus Christ. So anyway, I mean, it really was an incredible experience. Obviously, the wedding was what kicked it off, and then it was kind of weird to sort of end it with a death. Yeah. But at the same time, I mean, it was the cool thing about doing these kinds of boats. It's kind of like going to a big metal festival in a way, and just in that it's all the people that you want to hang out with. You know, and then when it comes to doing the boat, like when you go to a metal festival, like people can get tickets from anywhere. So they might know somebody at a radio station, or the promoter, or their dad does blah, 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 whatever. But like, you can't just like happen your way. Like, you can't just like talk your way onto a boat, like you can't, like, anyone who's there paid the money, like, unless you're in the band or somehow comped for the room, which would probably only be band and crew, that kind of thing. Like, it's not like we could get comped for the room if we're having a wedding. Like, everybody still has to pay. So that the people that are there are there.
They have something invested in the trip.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's the best part about it, is that everyone on the boat is equal, because in a way there's no place for anyone to go. You just got to be present in a way. So it's like, even when you're walking around the boat, like, oh, cool. Like, there's, Randy's just fucking going to grab some food, or You know, like, there's the guys from Violence just hanging out, or Lacuna Coil's just walking around. Like, you can't just hide away anywhere.
Did you see any Punishers on the boat? Anybody wearing anybody out? Like, dude, your fucking music changed my life. Any of that stuff. Everybody pretty cool.
Everybody was mostly cool. I mean, of course, you're always going to have those people that are going to be there, but I don't think there were any like Punishers, like, because again, it's like, the bands still have a schedule that they have to keep as well.
Yeah.
They still have stuff that they need to do, appearances they need to be a part of, etc., signings, photo shoots, that kind of thing. So I didn't see anybody being like overly annoying or anything like that to anybody, I mean, yeah, because like we would be hanging out with like some of the guys in God Forbid, and people would just be like, dude, I just want to say you're awesome. Thank you so much. Can I get a picture? And they're like, get a picture. And then usually that person is like, cool, I got to go and see Mastodon anyway right now. So,
Nice.
But like I said, that's what was so cool about it. It was just, you could just kind of walk anywhere, but you know that you can't just hide away in your bunk, hide away in your cabin, and, because you're not going to have a good time on the boat anyway, then, if you're just going to be sitting in your room the whole time,
right.
So, and then there's, arcades and pools and all these things. I mean, the pool stuff is always fun, because when you see like a band like Hatebreed or anything, it's just huge mosh pit in a pool. I
think I saw somebody do a mosh pit in a hot tub or jacuzzi.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when we went to what was it, 70,000 Tons? I mean, when Cannibal Corpse played, I mean, God, there was just like there was more water outside of the jacuzzi than inside, just because everyone was going so crazy inside.
Funny,
But it really is, man. I when it comes to these kinds of cruises, it's like if you do get to do it just once, I mean, it is really well worth going on, because you really do see just kind of the camaraderie of people, how much people are willing to help each other out. And I think that's kind of it. I think it's almost like a foxhole kind of situation, where it's like suddenly these people become, your family for 4 days, and you see the same people. And then when you're in the buffet area, you're like, dude, come on over, man. Let's all fucking eat together, and you just make all these new awesome relationships, of which we made many, which was great.
Nice.
And that was the best part. And then like, I posted on Facebook and stuff like, hey, if you see me on the boat, tap me on the shoulder and I'll give you something cool. And people would tap me on the shoulder, and depending on what I had on me, if I had a War Machine lanyard, I was like, cool, here's the lanyard. If I had the koozie on me, here's the koozie. If I had a dime bag poker chip on me, I'm like, cool, hey, you win this, like.
Nice.
So I just had people the whole time just kind of coming up to me, and like they like stare at me like, and I'm like, can I help you? And then they just come up to me and just like do this. I'm like, oh, you're tapping me on the shoulder. Okay, cool. Yeah. Here's this.
That's funny.
Yeah, it was, and that was kind of cool. It became sort of a scavenger hunt for people to find me, because there were people who were like, dude, I've seen you like 8 times. I didn't know you had stuff, So I definitely, next time I go on a cruise, I want to definitely make something that's kind of like that, where it's just like, hey, find me and I'll give you something really dope. So
nice.
That's why, like I said, I have a couple of pitches that I'm going to shoot over to the cruise company for next year's Headbangers Boat, and if they agree to it, then I'll be on there as a sponsor, hopefully.
All right, man. Well, as we wrap this up, best performance of the boat, who would you say?
To be honest with you, there were so many. Lamb of God, both of Lamb of God's performances were fucking savage, dude. Those guys are so fierce live. I could never get enough of them. And watching them do all of Ashes of the Wake was really incredible. Municipal Waste, like I said, is just fun. Those guys are just hilarious. Breakout for me was definitely Fit for an Autopsy. I saw a little bit of Dying Wish, and I saw a little bit of Bleed from Within, not enough to remember exactly what's what. I missed both of Testament sets, which I was a little bit bummed out about. One because of the wedding, and then one because of something else that happened. I think I might have been like super just not feeling good, and I was like, I can risk Testament for some sleep. Lacuna Coil is always fun. I mean, those are just friends. I love that. God Forbid and Shadows Fall, though. I mean, again, just savage. It's just like, again, just seeing them on a boat with like Lamb of God and Shadows Fall and God Forbid. It's like, to me, it's like 2001 all over again, when those bands were just playing these tiny little clubs.
Yeah.
So, and with Hatebreed on top of it, it's just like this, just all these bands that are all such good friends. And I think that's what made them all play better and harder potentially than otherwise. But yeah, I mean, so yeah, if you're going to check out anybody, I definitely say check out Municipal Waste, check out Fit for an Autopsy. because and Gate Creeper especially, man, those few bands are just like fucking brain melting, like just how good they are. Especially Municipal Waste, man, their shit is so complicated and they make it look so goddamn easy. It's like they're just like, I'm like, it's not fair that you make it look that easy and it's that much fun for you guys on stage. Like it's like they're like comedians on stage and they just kick into the most amazing thrash metal song you've ever heard. But yeah, I mean, next year's lineup looks super amazing. When we all heard that, we were like, "Yep, we're here." But I don't know if I can get Bick out there next year, but we'll see.
Most likely next year probably just be me and you then.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
What was the was this a sausage fest? What was the percentage of men to women there?
I would say it was right down the middle, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah. It was, because you have to remember too, it's like the people who can afford to go on a boat are typically older people with a lot more disposable income.
Yeah.
In this case, there were a couple of kids on board, so there was a few families that were there. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to skew harder towards the guys, but I think it's mostly guys and their wives.
That's what it looks like.
It's that kind of thing. Whereas, like with 70,000 tons, I felt like that was definitely more of a sausage fest. I mean, I was in a room with 3 other dudes. So it's kind of like that. But with this one, because 70,000 tons really pulls in heavily from European countries like Norway and whatnot. This was a lot of Canada, a lot of US, a lot of Mexico. So I felt that it was a lot more couples that were doing it than anything else. That's how I felt though. But I mean, it definitely still skewed a little higher male, but it was there was definitely a female presence there. That's for sure.
Yeah, I didn't know if this was a lot of like bros weekend.
No. I felt like, because again, it's like there was a lot of older people there. Like that's why I was like, when you think about a band like Violence, let's say, like those guys came out in the 80s. So it's like you're talking, that's what 40 years ago. 40 years ago. So if they were 20 when they started getting into thrash, it's like they're 60 years old, so there was plenty of people who were, kind of using a cane. I wouldn't say there was anybody there with a walker per se.
Yeah.
But, the ADA section definitely had a good chunk of people there.
This is the AARP sponsored Headbangers
that's
Boat.
What it's going to be, dude. It's going to be Medicare presents the Headbangers Boat. That's what it's going to be.
Too fun.
Oh my God, that'd be amazing. AARP presents rock. Fucking what's the other one? Shiprocked.
Yeah, there we go. Well, cool, man. Well, once again, congratulations. Send my well wishes to Bick. I've definitely, gave you the nice Facebook love, and
I certainly
make sure everybody watching and listening, make sure to say, congrats to Ro and Bick.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, man, I think that'll do it for the show.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, I think that's really it. I mean, you know what? I think as on the whole, if the unfortunate event didn't happen with this guy going overboard, it would have been a great adventure and a really fun thing. And oh my God, it was so great and everything. But I think what happened with this guy going over, I think it also it put a lot of things in perspective for a lot of people. And I think what it put in perspective was just the sense of community for the metal, for metalheads, that sense of community, that sense of togetherness. Because I mean, there were people who didn't know this guy that were visibly upset about what happened, even though they didn't know this guy at all. It's just the fact that it happened that just, it hit certain people hard, and they kind of, and because of that, everybody got that much closer. And I think that's really, I wish it didn't have to be an event like that happening, but because it did happen, it really did bring people a lot closer. It made people feel like this event was more than just a concert at sea.
Right.
It was this real community at sea kind of situation that I think really spoke to people. So I think that was definitely the one real hardcore takeaway. And I think next year for next year's boat, either I do hope there's some kind of, I don't know, mention, tribute, something like that. But I think there will be that bigger sense of community next year as well.
Yeah.
Especially for the people who did it this year, though, that's an experience that they're going to bring next year to the following years and be like, yeah, I remember when that happened, and it brought us tighter. And I think that's exactly what this community needs, a little tightness.
Well, there we go. Well, I think that will do it for another episode of a new pod here, KNOTFEST.com. So once again, I'm Joshua Toomey. That's Ro Coley. Make sure to like, subscribe, leave a nice 5-star rating or review.
Yeah.
And until next time, we will talk to you guys soon.
Yeah.